Any health-related information on the following show provides general information only. Content presented on any show by any host or guest should not be substituted for a doctor's advice. Always consult your physician before beginning any new diet, exercise, or treatment program.
Hi, welcome everybody to the Namaste Wellness Show, where we talk about all things holistic health for the mind, body, and spirit, for people and pets with a touch of cultural soul. Today, I'm very excited to be welcoming a very special person. Our topic is holistic pet care, and she is head of Anitra's Natural Cat House Call Service, providing holistic healthcare and grooming to the furry purry with a P of New York City, as well as offering worldwide telephone consultations. Anitra Fraizier also heads Fluff City, New York's feline health spa and hospice care. Anitra's clients have included hundreds of brilliant and influential cats, some whom have shared their lives with luminaries from the world of film, theater, fashion, classical music, Broadway, and dance. Anitra is also on the board of directors of Neighborhood Cats, which is a trap neuter release organization. She has also performed on Broadway for 15 years in musical comedy shows such as Hello Dolly, How to Be Successful in Business Without Really Trying. And I believe she said she also performed in the play West Side Story. I'll have to confirm that with her. She's also a yoga teacher. She was a yoga teacher for 47 years and taught at the Integral Yoga Institute, founded by Satchitananda in Greenwich Village as well. Let's welcome Mrs. Anitra or Miss Anitra Fraizier to the show. Hi, Anitra. Can you hear me, Anitra? Anitra, are you there?
Story. Do you remember I said to you that was a little bit before my time? I wasn't in New York yet when West Side Story was on Broadway.
Oh, okay. Well, that was my mistake. I thought you mentioned Broadway Story.
I wish I had. It's a wonderful show.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I did get it right. You did perform in Hello Dolly and How to Be Successful in Business Without Really Trying.
How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying.
Okay. All right. Very well.
Bye-bye, Birdie. Bye-bye, Birdie.
Oh, that's what it was. Bye-bye, Birdie. Okay. Thank you for to me.
Yeah, I had a really good time doing that.
Yeah. Okay. So very exciting. Very, and I haven't even said all the things you've done, but we can get right into it. So what I want you to do is just first tell us how you got into holistic cat care.
Okay. I was between shows, and when you're between shows, you can take other jobs. And so I've had a lot of different jobs, been very adventurous, and I was working for a veterinarian, and he wanted to find a way to groom very badly matted Persian cats. In the springtime, they get matted. You have to groom them. And the old-fashioned way was anesthetize and shave. And an anesthetic is very bad for cats, and they sometimes die. And he thought, well, if I send somebody into the home, they'll work in the cat's own territory, and the owner will be right there, and probably the cat will cooperate. I have a better chance of that anyway. And so he asked me to do it. And I said, but I've never studied grooming. And he said, well, try it. Maybe you'll like it. And that was like 50 years ago, and here I still am. Wow. While I was grooming, people would ask me questions. And I would go back to the veterinarian and say, Sebastian has dandruff. Can I give him some lecithin granules in his food? And the vet said, well, yeah, that's all right. Sure, go ahead. And then finally, I asked him, listen, I want to study feline nutrition. Who's the best? for me to study with? And he said, well, nobody's ever asked these questions before.
Oh, but
I
you
could
weren't, but
not
Anitra,
believe it.
Anitra, you were also a
The
dietitian,
logical way
right?
to go.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. Are you speaking? I'm not hearing you.
Yes, I was saying you're also a trained dietitian, right? I was just wondering why you asked about the lecithin granules, and then I remembered that I thought you're also a dietitian, correct?
I'm a nutritionist.
A nutritionist. Okay, all right.
That's right. And the reason I asked about lecithin was because when I was in show business, I studied nutrition because I wanted to find a way that I could have a lot of energy and not get tired during rehearsals, and that I could look really good so I'd get jobs.
Okay.
And I studied nutrition for myself.
Okay.
And I knew that lecithin granules emulsified fatty wastes and did away with dandruff.
Oh,
Emulsified means that they changed, you can't mix fat with water.
correct.
Emulsified means you take the fat and make it so it does mix with water. Therefore, it can be carried away by the blood and disposed of in the urine and not shoved out through the pores. Dandruff is a waste product. You're supposed to get rid of it. And if you can dispose of it in the blood and the urine, then it doesn't get shoved out through the pores.
Oh,
And Dr. Rowan, who was the doctor that started me grooming, said, sure. And what happened eventually was I took on any job that was not being covered or that wasn't being covered well or nicely. And so I did nursing care, and then I had to teach nursing care because the vets would send the owners to me if they said, oh, I can't give a needle, I can't do an insulin shot, I'm afraid of needles. Well, that's okay. I can, because I do not have a degree in cats. My degree is in education. I'm a trained teacher. See?
Okay.
So I'm good at teaching the owners what to do.
Right.
And the vets will send owners to me and say, tell them what to feed the cats. Well, that doesn't mean just tell what to feed the cats. I've got to tell them where to get the product or where to get the ingredients and how to mix them up and how to make it delicious so that the cat will want to eat it, and also how to control their own minds so that when they put the food down on the floor, they're not thinking thoughts like, oh, she's not going to like this, because she won't. If they pick up our thoughts, you know that.
Right.
Instead,
well, that's part of Anitra. Anitra, let me stop you or ask you about that. You were talking about the feeding them and them being, well, first of all, expand a little bit on why you recommend the raw diet.
Okay. There were some very big, interesting experiments done in the 1930s by a Dr. Pottinger. He was a vet, and he spent his entire career on one experiment. And that was, what is the difference in the health of the cat between feeding raw food and cooked food? And he carried the experiments out very carefully and did followed all the rules and so on. And long story short, what he came up with was, if you only feed cooked foods, the cat's immune system gets weaker and weaker and weaker. And if you feed raw food, the immune system gets stronger and stronger. So all of the holistic vets will recommend feeding raw food.
But some vets say that it's dangerous to feed raw. Do you know why they would?
No, I know that. I know they throw the fear of God into you. Oh, you'll kill your cat. I can tell you. Do you know Dr. Richard Pitcairn? He's very famous veterinary homeopath. One of the most famous.
He did the foreword in your book, The Natural Cat.
Right.
right?
Right.
Yeah.
He's very famous. He wrote for Prevention magazine and so on. And I went to him, and I was studying with him at the time. And I said, Richard, I'm having a problem with the owners. A lot of them say the same thing. Oh, aren't you afraid of salmonella? Aren't you afraid of poisoning the cat or making the cat sick with raw food?
Right.
And he got very unscientific, and he said, Anitra, I've been feeding raw food for years. You've been feeding raw food for years. All the holistic vets are feeding raw food for years. We've never had a problem. But I will guarantee you'll have a problem if you don't feed raw food. But of course, you have to be sensible. You don't leave raw food standing out on the table for half a day and then say, now I'm going to feed it. No. You keep it refrigerated. I even go so far as to insist on refrigerating in a glass container because glass conducts the cold and keeps it colder. Okay. I don't buy enough food for the week. I buy enough food for no more than 2 days.
Right.
So
now you also
it's kept cold and I use it up in 2 days.
Right.
I'm very, very careful with it. No, I've never had a problem.
Now, Anitra, and then the other thing is you don't just put raw meat. You don't just feed raw meat. You add supplementation also, correct?
Yes. When someone comes to me and asks for a raw food recipe, I make sure I say, don't feed the raw food unless you put in all the supplements, because meat is very high in phosphorus. You have to balance that phosphorus by adding calcium. So I tell them where to get the calcium and how much calcium to put into how much meat. And I say, if you run out of the calcium, go back to canned foods, because you shouldn't feed raw food without adding the calcium. Also, you've got to add some fiber. So we use a little bit of wheat bran. And depending on the cat, you have to tailor it to each cat. Sometimes I also put in psyllium husks. Right. I wouldn't do that if they tell me the cat is suffering from diarrhea. I wouldn't do that. But if they, I always ask, are you getting a stool every day? And then we can regulate the supplements so that we get a stool every day. That's very important to get rid of the waste products every day. And then I always put in a multivitamin or have the cat. I recommend these multivitamins that the cats think they're candy. I like to throw the multivitamin across the floor and let the cat catch and kill the multivitamin.
Right.
Give them a little exercise.
And you have recipes. You also have recipes in your book for the raw
the
diet.
Natural cat.
Correct? Yeah, and that's one thing. One thing I didn't mention, I thought I may have forgotten to mention, a very important thing is, and I don't know if Juan can put a picture of the book. There you go. So Anitra is the author of The Natural Cat, and she has information all about diet in the book, as well as a recipe or recipes for feeding raw. And I just wanted to say that, Anitra, so I didn't mean to cut you off, but I wanted to bring that up, that you are a world-renowned author, right? And you not only talk about feeding or, how to feed your cat, you also talk about a lot of other important things in the book. So can you share some of the other things in the book that you are important for cat care? Holistic cat care.
Sure. If anybody wants to, they can go on the web and take a look at the book.
Where on the web? Where can they find the book, or where can they buy the book or see it on the web?
Amazon. I know Amazon gets it to you in like 2 days.
Right.
The book was written in 1970 something, 76. Mm-hmm. And it's been updated and expanded 4 times. This is the 4th edition. And you can tell when you've got the 4th edition because the cover has no scratching post. All the other covers, the earlier covers, is this cat with a scratching post. But this new one is an up-close picture of a cat's face. It's just the face of a cat. Mm-hmm. And when it started out, it was about 200 pages. And then when I started out, I did not know what the word holistic meant.
Okay.
And they wanted to use a subtitle, a holistic guide. And I said, what's holistic? And they said, well, it's your book. That's what your book is. It's holistic. It was the first holistic book ever to be published, first holistic animal book that was ever published. And now it's over 500 pages.
Yeah.
I even added new chapters. I have a chapter on interspecies communication.
Yes. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because when I got my first cat and I was reading in the book, I used some of those, the techniques in there, and it really worked. One example was I was trying to train him to use a harness. I bought one of those Come With Me Kitty harnesses kits, and I took him outside. And my husband thought I was crazy to try to walk a cat. This was in like 2008. That was the first time I ever had cats. I grew up with dogs. I never had cats. But I got my first cat my husband's a mailman, so he had me bring the cat home, thought he wouldn't make it through the night, and we kept the cat. And so I was he wanted to go outside. I took him outside. He wanted to climb up the tree. So when he got up the tree, I still had him on the harness and the leash. And I started thinking and saying to him, back down, because you were saying that if you visualize what you want the cat to do, along with and you were saying also that the mother cat will teach the cat how to back down the tree. I didn't know anything about how cats get down the tree. So anyway, I used that technique and it really worked. He would go up the tree so far, and then I would visualize back down and say back down. And I know my husband thought I was totally crazy, but it worked.
Well, yes. In that chapter, I explained that cats pick up from us thought pictures, emotions, and sensual impressions. So you were sending him a thought picture, and probably, I hope, you were also giving him an emotion of I love you, I want you here with me.
Yes.
They would pick that. Yeah, they would have picked that up.
Right.
And cats cannot understand the negative. And we humans use them a lot, like the phrase, I'm not going to hurt you. And that's a phrase I used to use when I was grooming. If they get nervous about me removing a mat, I'm not going to hurt you, darling. It's okay. Mm-hmm. Well, they get a picture of an impression of being hurt and the cat and me, because they didn't get the not part. I'm not. They couldn't understand the not part. They'd just say, oh, my God, something about being hurt. I've got to get out of here. So I had to change. I had to learn to change and say, everybody's safe. You're going to feel so good.
So
you're
going
to be able to lick your tongue right down to the skin on the first lick and scratch that itchy spot. Oh, boy, it's going to feel wonderful. You see, I'm adding the emotion to it, the emotion of satisfaction and so on. But that's that chapter. I have, there's chapters on the litter box, on the scratching posts. I have the Cat and the Human Family, where I tell about how to keep children safe, which is just tell the child, yes, you can touch the cat, but use only one hand.
Okay.
That ensures the child will never hold the cat, because that's when the cat will scratch, not meaning to probably, but will try to get away. If the child is trying to hold the cat, that's not a good thing to do. There's there's a big chapter on nursing care, how to take a temperature, how to give a needle, how to give an enema.
Right.
Somebody once said, Anitra gives an enema so well that after she's finished, the cat is still wondering why she put her up there on the table.
Wow.
She didn't even notice
That's amazing. Because I can't even let my cats won't even let me clip their claws. I mean, I don't know. I guess I'm using the wrong emotion or something. I don't know. That's
no, most people, when they try to clip the claws, the mistake they make is they grab the leg or the foot. Well, how else are you going to clip the claws, they say.
Right.
Well, first thing you do is don't clip the claws. Start stroking the cat in his favorite place, usually the back of the neck. You want to associate touching the claws with pleasure. So you give him pleasure on the back of the neck, and then you let your hand slip down the leg and touch the paw and let the paw go and go back to the neck. You're associating the paw with the neck pleasure.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's what you first do. First, you don't start by clipping the claws. No, you start by touch the paw and make sure you associate pleasure with touching the paw. And then palpate the little pads so that you make the claw come out. Extrude the claw. And I tell you exactly how to do that. You press up on the pad and the claw comes out. You do everything. The last thing you do is clip the claw.
Okay.
You do everything else. You extrude the nail. You look at the nail. You touch the nail. You pick up the clipper. You touch the nail with the clipper. And in between all these things, you again go back and start stroking the back of the neck and the side of the throat and down the leg. And you do this many, 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 many times. Every time you pet the cat, you include casually, just very casually, touching the paw, maybe touching a claw, sometimes maybe extruding a claw, so that it's not a strange, weird thing.
Right.
Now, when I go to your
home, it takes a lot of patience.
If you call me, and often people will call me in to please clip the claws.
Okay.
Well, I don't.
Now you do when you do your consultations, and Juan, would you mind putting up Anitra's phone number, because Anitra does worldwide consultations by phone, and I was going to ask you, Anitra, will people call you and will you talk them through clipping nails? You will? Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Sure. Yeah, that's what I do. Remember, I said my degree is in teaching.
Right. That's right.
That's often the reason why the vet tells them to give me a call. I can, if a cat gets kidney disease, the vet will want you to hydrate the cat. You use a needle under the skin the same way that you do if you're giving insulin. And I have helped people put the needle under the skin and release the valve so the water runs under the skin. It's a way of giving dialysis, and you can have years of comfort.
Well, I remember I had to call you to do that with one of my cats too. So I do.
I had forgotten that. That because we talked about so many other things.
Right.
You were able to do so much. You were able to really raise the quality of life of your cat.
Right.
Because you were a very quick student.
Thank you.
And you wanted to do everything.
I just want to bring attention. I just want to ask you real quick too, because I know we don't have limited time. I had a question about cats because I've experienced this myself, and just if anyone's just joining us now, I'm talking with Anitra Fraizier. She's a holistic cat care expert. She wrote the book, The Natural Cat. She's talking to us about all of the important information in the book in terms of taking care of your cat. And we're also scrolling her contact number on the screen now. The number for those of you listening, 212-663-0122. Again, her contact number is 212-663-0122. And that's for the people who may just be joining us, hopefully. And so I wanted to ask about cats that pee on furniture. What can we, how can you address that? And let me just say this before you answer. When I first started taking care or raising cats or as family members, I was told that cats will spray or pee if they are upset. But then I learned that sometimes it can be they might have an illness, or and you'll probably also talk about when they're not spayed or neutered as well. So go ahead and continue.
Well, yeah, this happens from time to time. And the first question, when anybody asks me any question, the first thing I do is I ask them a whole bunch of questions.
Okay.
Because there's many different reasons that could prompt a cat to pee outside the box. Oh, suppose the box is filthy.
Right.
They're afraid to go into it because it's a dangerous place. It'll attract predators. It'll get dirt on their little paws. So you make the, and then I have to find out, is the cat unneutered? A male cat, and also sometimes a female cat, not as often, but sometimes, they will pee outside the box. They will spray. They'll go over to the wall because they want to attract a mate. And the mate will be attracted by the urine that smells of a cat in season.
Okay.
A lot of cats lose their homes that way because the owners are not aware that if they get the cat neutered, there will be no more peeing outside the box.
Right.
That's all you have to do to get the cat neutered. But you want to get a cat neutered. That's another thing is there's a fad to early neuter now. And they're neutering kittens that are like 10 weeks old. This is not a good idea at all because it affects the immune system. When a cat becomes mature, a whole bunch of different hormones, not just one, a whole array of hormones are released. Some, the operative word is some, have to do with reproduction. Most of them have to do with other functions such as the immune system. And if you neuter the cat before they go through the change to adulthood, you don't just stop them from having babies. You stop those hormones that are necessary for the immune system.
Right.
And you have a much more vulnerable cat.
Well, yeah, that was very helpful.
So I always said the ideal, in the book, there's a chapter on it. It's called Neuter and Spay. It's the kindest way. And it recommends that you keep your cat from coupling with another cat until the male's urine changes odor and the male becomes a little more aggressive. That's a sign that he's going through that change into maturity. Or until the female goes through at least one heat.
Right.
Then that's the time when the sexual center changes from the organs to the base of the brain.
Okay.
And all of those other hormones having to do with all those other functions like the immune system are now in the base of the brain. Are regulated by the base of the brain, and you can remove the organs and not change the general physicality of the cat.
Okay.
So that's the good time. Now, the shelters say we cannot do that. We have to be sure that this new owner is not going to say, I'll let her have one litter. God forbid, because then that's can be responsible for hundreds and thousands of kittens.
Right.
Because the litter grows up and they have litters and so on.
Right.
I understand that. I do understand that. And so they're sacrificing the general health of the cat to make sure that all the cats of the world
Right.
are not ending up in shelters and having to be euthanized because there's no room for them. It's a problem that has not been solved yet.
Well, let's talk about, now that you're bringing that up, let's talk about the trap, neuter, release program, which because so if you want to talk about that and how that's helping the situation somewhat, right?
You know what? I can tell you the story of how I found out. Brian Cordes is the guy who's the head of Neighborhood Cats and who thought up the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because the way to control the cat population used to be trap them and kill them, as many as you can.
Oh.
Well, not only is this a terrible idea, it doesn't work.
Okay.
Because any territory will have as many cats as the territory can support. They can find enough food and have enough place there. So that if you take away, you trap and kill a bunch of cats, that leaves empty cat slots. And the next litter will slide right into the empty slots, and you'll have just as many cats as you had before. However, if you trap them, neuter them, trap, neuter, return them to their homes. They don't want to be adopted. A feral cat is a cat that wants to be out wild. It's like trying to adopt a squirrel. They don't want to be taken in,
Right.
Then the cat slots are filled by cats who are not going to have kittens. Perfect. You solved the problem.
Sure.
I was doing he had brought me a cat. I forget what the problem was, but I was working on the cat, and he says, Anitra, please come with me. I want to show you a wild colony, a managed colony. Because I said, Brian, I don't, I have to deal sometimes with difficult situations, and I find it exhausting, and I end up getting sick. And I seeing those feral cats, they're all very skinny and dirty, and there's nothing I can do about it. So if there's nothing I can do about it, it's better that I don't focus on them and exhaust myself.
Right.
And he said, Anitra, that's not what happens anymore. I have managed colonies. They're fed, and they have little houses that keep them warm in the winter.
Wow.
And we were in the middle of the winter. It was freezing cold. It was the ground was frozen. There was ice all over the place. He says, please, let me show you. And I finally said, okay. We went out, and he took me through a bunch of back alleys, and I was really falling on my nose because they were all covered with ice. And then we came to a corner of a building, and he said, okay, from this moment on, don't say a word. Because around this corner, there's a colony of ferals. When we go around that corner, they're going to run. They're wild animals. They're going to take one look. They're going to run for their lives.
Wow.
Okay?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I go with him around the corner, and they're out of these styrofoam boxes leap the most beautiful cats I have ever seen.
Wow.
Rich coats. They hit the ground running, and they run towards a fence.
Amazing.
The fence is like 7 feet high. I swear to God, they leapt to the top of the fence, pushed off, and flew into the air and down the other side. I have never seen such strong, healthy animals in my life.
But these were okay.
All my fears about the cats being sick and thin and dirt, they were beautiful, gorgeous. He says that's because this is a managed colony.
Okay, but Anitra, that's one of my questions. When you spay and neuter them, and you're saying these were after they had been spayed and neutered, because that was my concern. If you spay and neuter a cat and then put them outside, does that weaken them?
No, not if you wait until they've gone through one heat or that urine has changed odor. You simply remove those organs so that there's no more fighting over mates, no more yowling and screaming and disturbing the neighbors.
Okay.
No more terrible odor from the urine. Oh, those wild cats, they smell. No, they don't. They're neutered. They don't smell anymore. They're neutered. There's no more fighting, no more yowling, no more unwanted kittens. Just a group of cats who live together in friendship and harmony, who hunt. They keep down the rodent population. So they're eating live food. They're not only raw, it's live food they're eating. Of course, they're healthy and strong. And then the colony manager comes in, makes sure they always have water that's not frozen, that they have these. Brian says to me, go over to one of those boxes, those styrofoam boxes. Put your hand inside. Don't worry, they're all gone. There's no cats there. It was below zero outside, right? I put my hand into one of the boxes where the cats, 2 or 3 cats had been snuggled up. It felt like a warm oven.
Wow.
Styrofoam is dirt cheap, and it is an insulator. It is of itself an insulator. The boxes are insulated. Neighborhood cats, if you have a group of ferals and you want to manage the colony, they'll tell you how to go about trapping. I mean, there's a proper way to do it. I don't know that way because I'm not a trapper. But they'll teach you how. There's a whole setup that, like, you feed them not very much food right before they're trapped, so that first you feed them regularly, so you know there will always be here at 5 o'clock. They know that's when the food comes, so you can get them together. You feed them a little less for a couple of days, so they're hungry, and then you put the food inside of traps and set the traps to spring when they walk in to get the food.
Right.
And especially if it's winter, you make sure you're there to take the traps right away into a holding area so they're not left outside in a cold weather and unable to move around and keep themselves warm. And you have set up appointments for them at the veterinarian where they're going to be spayed. And you come and pick them up afterwards, make sure they're healthy. You don't put a sick cat back outside, but the healthy ones, you make sure, especially the females, you let them spend at least a night so that you know that they're recuperated from the anesthetic and the stitches are holding nicely. And they use those dissolving stitches, so nobody has to catch them and bring them back to take the stitches out or anything like that.
Right.
And then you put them back into their familiar territory, their place that they call home. And you can get for less than $30, I think, those winter styrofoam, nice, snug, warm bedrooms for them. Okay. And there's a proper way to do it. You put them up on a little pile of bricks, so they're not on the ground.
Okay.
And you face them a certain way, and you put the cut round holes for them to go in and out. And which way do you face the round holes? That's the whole way, proper way to do it, so it works for you and it works for the cats.
And you can go to neighborhoodcats.org to find out more information about that, right?
Yeah. And, I have a little thing in there on vitamin C for ferals.
Oh, okay.
I think you have to tap. You want to know more or something like that, and then that's one of your options if you want to know about vitamin C for ferals.
Okay. You said that's in the book.
You join, and you get newsletters, and they'll help you. They'll actually go, like I do consultations on the phone. They'll do consultations on the phone. Oh, there's this one cat nobody can catch, and he's scared. They'll tell you how to set it up so that you will get that one cat that you weren't able to get.
Okay.
One's all you need to have a litter.
Right. Yeah.
Yes, there's proper ways to go about where do you trap first and then where do you trap next, so that you get the most out of your efforts.
Right. Well, I hope there are people out there that, because a lot, that's a lot of effort, and God bless people, those out there that can do that and that will do that.
It's not for some people, and it's just exactly what other people want to do.
Yeah.
I tell you, I thought I knew a lot about cats until Brian had me foster a feral, a wild animal. He was TNR'd, but he came up sick. He had upper respiratory infection. They couldn't put him back out. His name was Smokey, and he was in a cage. I learned so much from Smokey. They're very, very different from your house cats. I mean, he wanted me dead. He knew I was going to kill him eventually, but he was determined he would take me with him when he went.
Okay.
He would have me dead.
Wow.
And we couldn't put him back, because after I got him well, I nursed him, got him well, we were having blizzards and all kinds of stuff like that. We couldn't put him back in under those conditions.
Right.
He had just been sick. And I had him for a couple of months. And back at his colony, they knew that Smokey and Stella were an item. He had a girlfriend named Stella.
Okay.
And the big male that was the head of the colony, they were afraid that he would claim Stella, and when Smokey came back, Stella wouldn't be his anymore. We wanted to get him back, and we couldn't do it. Finally, when the day came, it was like March, and Brian said as they got closer to the colony area, he says, that cat made sounds I'd never heard a cat make in all my life. He could smell it. He knew he was going home.
Wow.
Brian took the carrier out of the truck and approached. It was a parking lot with a cyclone fence. And as he approached the fence, he said a couple of cats came out from the abandoned building, which is where they lived, next to the parking lot. And out came Stella.
Wow.
And Smokey started making all kinds of noises. And little Stella started trotting towards Brian, which she never would do. She's a feral. She would never do such a thing.
Wow.
He says when they got inside the fence, he put the carrier on the tarmac, opened the lid. Smokey jumped out, made a beeline for Stella. Stella made a beeline for Smokey. They touched noses, turned around, and darted streamlined for the abandoned building. And that's the last they saw of him.
Wow. That's pretty amazing. I wish I have a sister and brother cat, and the sister can't stand to be out when her brothers are out. So that's amazing that they can have relationships like that. Yeah. And we're getting close to time, Anitra. I wanted to just have you say a little bit about I know you kind of touched on it, that you were a yoga teacher and you also performed in musical comedy shows and Broadway and that type of thing. But is there anything you want to share maybe in the next minute? Or I think it looks like we're at time. So we're going to have to go now, Anitra, but I thank you so much. I'm going to have to ask you to come on another time because you have so much information. But please buy her book, The Natural Cat, and you can get it on Amazon. Thank you for Anitra being here. Until next time, stay safe.
Well, if anybody has questions, they can always call.
Always call. Yep.
$20 for each 15 minutes. I keep the price very, very, very low.
Yes, very
just take down 212-663-0122.
And there you have it. One more time.
663-0122.
Thank
you. And book some time if you have a question.
All right. Thank you so much for being here, Anitra. I will be in touch. And everyone, thank you for joining me. We'll see you next time on the Namaste Wellness Show. Stay safe and well. Namaste. Thank you.